Welcome to Under the Microscope. This series is brought to you by the Real Scientists Nano team. Our goal is to provide a platform where scientists can communicate their work and interact with the public. With that in mind, every week we introduce you to a scientist working in the field of materials and nanoscience, who would be curating the RealSci_Nano Twitter account.
Hello everyone. Today we have with us Irene Suarez-Martinez, who is a senior lecturer at Curtin University in Australia. Hi Irene, welcome to Real Scientist Nano.
Well, thank you.
We are very delighted to have you. Let's start by understanding your scientific journey so far. So how did you end up in your current research field?
So I did an undergraduate degree in chemistry, and on my last year, I went to the UK for a year to study, and I decided to do a research project with a professor there who I really enjoy doing research. It was the first time that I was actually doing research and not like coursework. So it was a lot of fun. So when I finished, I went back to Spain, and then I thought maybe that can be a job. Maybe I can just carry on. So I applied for a PhD in different places, but also with this professor. His name was Malcolm Heggie. And then he said, yeah, I would love to have you. And he offered me two projects, one in silicon and another one on carbon. And on carbon, my PhD was in Sussex University, which is where Harry Kroto, which is one of the three people who won the Nobel Prize for the fullerene, was in the same department. And I thought, oh, this sounds fun. But he said, well, it's not in fullerenes, your PhD. The one I'm offering you is on graphite. It's on graphite for nuclear reactors. And I thought, well, that sounds cool too. So I chose that project, and I started to work on graphite, and then I have stayed on carbon materials ever since.
You were hooked, and since then it's just carbon materials.
Yeah.
That's quite a journey you've had, and it's quite, if I may say so, very typical of a scientist to move away from the home country and travel around like a travel bug almost. It sounds like in retrospect. That is amazing. So I think we understand where your scientific journey so far, where you came from, sort of your scientific part, where it came from. But where does your current research fall in this big picture of materials or a nanoscience domain? Where does it fit in the big puzzle?
So I think within Nano, I have been in and out a lot. Right. I think it's very much because it's carbon materials, and carbon materials, I think it's different from nanoparticles. That is probably that's a bit harder, but basically, especially in going from graphene to graphite, it's just putting more layers. So it's a very fluent field, right. And you roll them and you get nanotubes. So you cone them and you get nanocones. So it's very easy to jump between one form and another. So while I did my PhD on graphite, my first postdoc was on carbon nanotubes.
Right.
And then I came to Australia, and the reason was I wanted to learn a new technique, molecular dynamics, that I hadn't used in the past, and that was then to go back to bulk, because it was studying amorphous carbons. But then there was then no one was doing kind of nano materials in the department. And I was like, oh, let me tell you about this new carbon nanofilm that I know about peapods. And then, so I have been moving then to peapods. Then I went back to, there was a project on diamonds. So I jumped on diamonds. So I have been constantly changing the material. Yeah, but always on carbon. And now one of my my main two projects are about graphitization, so materials that convert into graphite, and as well black carbon, which is different from carbon black. One of the problems in the carbon materials world is the names. They're terrible.
Yeah.
We were not good at giving names of things. So is the carbon black, black carbon is a pollutant in the atmosphere. So it's a bit in the nano as well because it's very, very small particles. So yeah, I'm interested on those at the moment too.
Okay, so your research is basically quite diverse, and you basically jump from bulk to nano to micro to meso to all kinds of different carbons, with carbon being the continuing theme since your undergrad, if I remember correctly.
Since my PhD,
Previously.
I have now a project now on graphene oxide, and I'm a little bit worried that I'm introducing oxygen and hydrogen.
That is super interesting, and it sounds to me that you are involved in a lot of interesting research experiments or projects. And if you have to pick one, I know it's quite difficult to pick one because I'm sure that you have several experiments that you have which are closer to your heart, like close to your heart. But if you have to pick one that is the most that you are most proud of, or the most fun or quirky one, could you pick one of such a research project and explain it to us in the section we'll call?
I think the project I'm most proud of is what I call the family tree of carbon. So going back to the fact that in carbon materials, people have used very quirky names, and it makes it really hard sometimes to do, like, to search for what are you, is your form something new, or has someone seen it before? And if they have, what would they have called it? What would have been named?
Right.
So I spent a lot of time reading a lot of papers, organizing all the different all the different forms, and it kind of felt to me it was like a tree, like a family tree, where then graphene was the mother or father of all of them. And, depending on what you did with graphene, you could get to this form or another one. So it was like, like the periodic table of carbon nanostructures, and I really, really enjoyed that project.
Oh, that is that. I would love to see the family tree or the carbon family
Yeah,
tree.
I will put it in this week. That will be something that people will see.
Absolutely, yes, please. Because you're absolutely right. There are so many different forms of carbon, and there are so many different names for even the same form. I would call it a carbon nanotube. You would call it maybe a scroll. Another person would call it nanopipe.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. So doing this family tree is extremely important, I feel. I can imagine why you picked this as the project that you're proud of, or the most fun one. The periodic table of carbon structure. I like that. I like that description. All right, wonderful. Let's move out of the lab and towards teaching the new generation. So, Irene, do you teach? And if you do, which courses would you like to mention?
So I'm currently teaching for the first time solid-state physics, which is a third-year course at Curtin University. And I hope it will be fun. It's gonna be challenging on this time to do teaching, but yeah, I'm looking forward for it, but at the same time being a bit scared of it.
Okay. Are you doing it online at the moment, or are you doing it in the lab? On campus.
So we will do the lectures will be online, but we have computer labs and tutorials, and that will be face to face if everything carries on as it is.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, super. So good luck with solid state physics. I hope it goes well. Let's move back to the lab, or rather, let's move towards the research experience a little bit. And I hope your research experience, has been wonderful so far, and will continue to be wonderful in the future as well. However, if you have 3 wishes to improve your research experience, what would you ask for? And I'm not promising anything here.
Damn it. I think, well, one of the things that I will wish for is that the PhD training is more valued in industry, because I feel like if you start a PhD and then you start doing a few postdocs, it's like an academic career that is one direction, and the moment you step out of it or you are pushed out of it, it's really difficult to go back. And I wish that it will be more fluidity between academia and industry, and then people could jump from one to another much more easily. I think my second wish will be that people stop glorification of working 24/7 and they I do science because I love it and it's everything in my life, and I have no hobbies outside, and I will never retire because that's all I love to do. And that is fine, but I don't think everyone is that way. And the people who shout very loud with that makes others having to lie about it. So I'm quite open, and I always say I work part-time at the moment, and on my day off, I'm off, and I don't do any science that day, and I think that is fine. And I think everyone should realize that it's fine to have a life outside the lab. And my third one will be, you give me 3, so going for it.
Yes.
It will be better metrics in academia. I think people are very obsessed with papers, paper count. And I think the impact of the paper needs to be important, and on not only papers, but other things. Outreach, engagement with industry, teaching. There is tons of things that needs to be involved, and also relative to opportunity. Like, it's not the same someone who has been moving country every year to someone who has been in the same lab forever. And I think this paper counting is like a vicious cycle, because then publisher wants more papers, and then the researchers are happy because they get more papers, and then the quality of the things are going down. And I have seen papers that I'm like, my God, maybe the science is good, but the presentation looks rushed and looks like you didn't take the time, and that's in the ones where the science is good. It's just, I think we have too many papers, too many journals, and I think people need to calm down on that, and you have to be proud of every paper that you have.
Okay. Yeah, all 3 very, very fair wishes, and I completely agree. Quality over quantity, I think that is more important in terms of judging a researcher. And I think that's a very good point that you raised, that it shouldn't just be the number of papers which are published, but also the collaborations. How many international collaborations do you have? How many industrial collaborations do you have? How many courses have you taught? How is your mentoring going together with the courses you have taught and the people in your lab, such as the postdocs or PhD students or master students, whoever, and how often you have moved, because that is also very important to consider that as a parameter in judging, let's say, judging a researcher, because researchers are quite overwhelmed or oh my God, I didn't publish 50 papers in 1 year. Oh my God, what is going to happen to me? You're absolutely right about that.
And people need to realize that then there are things that are hard to recover and impossible. Like, you can't ask someone who has changed country every year to then you can say, oh, you are not good enough, you haven't supervised PhD students. And you think, well, how can that person do it? Hasn't been longer than 3 years in any place.
Exactly.
Or you went out of academia to do something in industry. Obviously, your papers are going to be lower in number, but you have other things. So yeah, I think performance relative to opportunity is really important, and that cannot be done. That's why grants are sent to humans to evaluate, because a human needs to look at it and needs to realize what life is, and then say if this person is compare this person to this other person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair enough. That's a very good point. Well, at this point, I can't grant all these three wishes just by myself. We need everyone to pitch in here. I'm sorry. I wish I could just snap my fingers and be like, okay, tomorrow, everything is gonna be exactly what you wanted. I would love to do that. But at this point, let me put it this way. Maybe my Genie application is still in process. So until it is approved, I hope we are working towards achieving all the three wishes that you mentioned. And speaking of future, what are you most looking forward to in the next 3 months?
Well, I think given the state of the world and the pandemic going all around the world, um, I think not only the research sector, but also the world in general as well, we reevaluate a bit how we operate and how much we travel. So maybe considering taking less flights, not only for environmental reasons, which I think is quite important, but as well so that we are more inclusive. So I have seen now a lot of things online, like conference online, people working from home, and
Mhm.
as someone with young kids who have found really hard to keep up with the traveling and with the reduced hours and all that. I think hopefully then now the world realized that we could actually operate in that way for everybody and make everyone more, make research more inclusive.
Right. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes complete sense. And before we let you go, Irene, what I do want to understand from you is what do you think the materials or nanoscientist community is working towards? What is the big questions or what are the challenges faced by the field that you, from your point of view?
So I think I remember 10, 15 years ago, there was a lot of bad reputation of nano in the media, just like nano in general. It didn't matter what the material was. It was like the public was scared of nano as a
Mm-hmm.
health hazard.
Right.
Um, I'm not sure where that came from, really, to be honest. I don't know if it was the comparison between nanotubes and asbestos or where it came from, but um, I'm quite proud that the whole community, I think we have changed that, and it's not the paranoia of nano just because it's small, it was going to kill you. I think that has changed.
Right.
Um, I think the next challenge is then make it into commercialization, and there is a few things coming into the market. But going back to nomenclature, I think for commercialization as well, we need to be um, more definitive on what things are. So it's very hard for a supplier. They say it's graphene, but what do you mean graphene? Is it one layer, two layers, three layers, 5, 10? And there is too many things coming into the same category by name.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think hopefully that will get solved, and then we will get things in the market, and then help computers, help health research, like advance the science that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. So commercialization, and that's an interesting point also that you brought that people were scared about over a decade ago. People were scared about with nano, like, oh my God, it's gonna cause cancer, or oh my
Yeah.
God, we don't know what it is. And it's good that nano is gaining back its reputation within
Mm.
the common public now, because it's not scary. It's fine. It's just like any other field. It's all good. There's
Why
nothing
nano
wrong with
versus
it.
macro? It's like just because you can see it, it could kill you equally. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And yeah, yeah, absolutely right. The commercialization or entering public, not public, sorry, entering the industry. So moving from the lab bench to the market shelf. That is the challenge that we are working towards. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Irene. It was lovely speaking with you. And we are
My
looking forward to having you on Real Scientist Nano.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. To know more about us, please visit our website realscientistsnano.org and follow us on Twitter at realsci_nano.